O love, O heart, find the way to heaven. Set your sights on a place higher than your eyes can see, for it was the higher aim that brought you here in the first place. Now be silent. Let the one who creates the words speak. He made the door. He made the lock. He also made the key. How many men have found tragic ends running after beauty? Why don't they look for you, the heart and spirit of all beauty? I am always entranced by the works of Rumi. His poems are on another level, and this one is no different. Find the Way to Heaven is a beautiful poem that encourages the reader to seek a higher spiritual purpose and to let go of all worldly attachments in order to find true beauty, peace, and love. The original Farsi version can be found in Rumi's Diwan-e-Shams, which Rumi wrote in honor of his spiritual teacher and friend Shams Tabrizi. Now, for those of you who don't know, Shams was a wandering dervish who arrived in Rumi's hometown of Konya, Turkey in the 13th century and quickly became a friend and spiritual mentor to Rumi. In fact, Rumi's relationship with Shams had such a profound impact on his life and work that when Shams later suddenly disappeared, Rumi entered a state of intense grief, which he then expressed in his beautiful poetry. The poems in the Diwan, including this one, reflect this emotional journey, and it's important to understand this context before trying to interpret the poem. But now that we know a little bit more about the circumstances under which Rumi actually wrote this poem, let's see if we can now uncover its true meaning so that we can apply its wisdom in our lives. Rumi starts the poem with this beautiful line, Ay ashiqan, ay dil, rai parwaz be jahan paida kun. Or as it's translated, O love, O heart, find the way to heaven. In other words, let go of your attachment to this physical world so that you can enter the spiritual world. The way to heaven is a deep metaphor symbolizing our spiritual journey. It doesn't have to be a physical journey, although sometimes it can be. Rather, it's ultimately an inner journey, a journey into our soul, a journey to God. And although we might take different paths to get there, the destination is all the same. God is found everywhere on the spiritual path, as long as we take a moment to realize it. Rumi is encouraging us to seek this higher spiritual plane and to do whatever we can to become closer to the divine. And it's not like he's just telling us casually to do it. He's imploring and almost begging us to do it. You can kind of see this with the use of his words, "O love" and "O heart," which creates a sense of emotional urgency and an emphasis on feeling over reason, which is a common theme in Rumi's work. We have to trust our heart rather than get bogged down by the fears and doubts of our mind. This is the only way we will truly progress on the spiritual path. We have to set our sights on a place higher than even the eyes can see. That is to say, that relying on our five senses is not enough. If you need to see God to believe Him, you are not ready. You have to feel God. You have to become God. This feeling or intuition comes from seeing with our third eye. Now, Rumi doesn't specifically say the third eye in the poem because it's mostly a spiritual concept used in Hinduism and Buddhism, but this inner eye is used as a symbol of spiritual awakening and enlightenment. It's associated with the ability to see beyond the surface level of reality and to gain a deeper understanding of the nature of existence. It's no surprise why so many of us close our eyes when we try to travel into our soul. It's because we are trying to access this inner eye, or this fount of wisdom. By eliminating our sense of sight through our two physical eyes, we are gaining a new kind of sight, a spiritual sight. And this is exactly the sight that Rumi is referring to here. Because our two eyes alone cannot see the soul. They can't see heaven. They can't see God. This higher spiritual purpose that we are seeking transcends all physical limitations. And this can be hard for many of us to understand at first because we are so reliant on our mind and five senses. But see if you can now close your eyes and find this higher place. See if you can find this deep state of consciousness where you and God have never been any closer. This is what spirituality is all about. Because it's this higher spiritual purpose that brought us here on earth in the first place. We didn't just come here to have fun. We didn't come here to just spend our days away. We came here to return back home, to return back to God. Now, of course, we can't return back home unless we actually left it. So you may be asking, when did I leave my spiritual home? When did I leave God? Well, it was the moment that you were born. The moment when your human life began is also the moment when your spiritual purpose began. You see, there is a greater purpose to all of our existence beyond our individual experiences. Most of us don't realize it until it's too late. We get lost in the distractions of this world, not realizing that life has a much deeper purpose and meaning. And when taken to extremes, we experience the most painful of suffering, wondering why we feel so lonely, empty, and unfulfilled. It's because we haven't yet fulfilled our spiritual purpose. We haven't yet found the way to heaven. The good news, though, is that we don't have to spend years trying to find this mystical way, because the way has always lived inside us. We are the way. And the only way that we will realize that we are the way is to be silent, to quiet our mind and the endless thoughts created by our ego or false self. When we think, we become anxious, but when we become still, we become peaceful. And there's a simple explanation for this. When we try to think on our own, we're relying on just our ego. But when we become silent and still, we're relying on God. We're relying on His wisdom and power to guide us through life rather than our own limited understanding. This is why Rumi says to listen to the one who created words. There is no one better than Him. And this is where I think a lot of us struggle, because we think we know the answer to everything. We think that we can effectuate a change in our life, when in fact it is all because of God's doing. The best we can do is to surrender and flow with His grace rather than trying to resist it. This surrendering to a higher spiritual authority is a common theme in all forms of Sufi mysticism, not just Rumi's poetry. Because if you think about it, God created everything. He not only created us, but He also created the world we live in, the soul we embody, and the spiritual journey we have to take. So who better to turn to for helping us than God Himself? He made the door, He made the lock, He also made the key. The door and lock are obviously metaphors, but they illustrate so well that God has already created everything we need to reach a higher spiritual state. All we need to do is simply use the tools that are already available to us. In other words, we already possess the key to unlock the door to a higher spiritual plane, but we must be willing to use it. The key is our own soul, and the lock is our ego, which prevents us from trying to enter the spiritual plane where we can become one with God. But as the famous expression goes, for every lock, there is a key. As powerful and as tempting as our ego can be, it is no match for the wisdom, peace, and love of our soul. For our soul is in essence a part of God, and nothing is greater than God. If we can truly understand and internalize this, then we will realize that we have all the tools and resources we need to make this journey back home. It's all there ready for us, as long as we are willing to seek it out. And that is the key point here, and why the poem ends with such a deep reminder. If you look around you, you might find countless men and women who have found tragic ends running after all kinds of beauty. It doesn't have to be running after the beauty of a person. That's kind of the first interpretation that comes to mind. But it could also be running after the beauty of an object, position, or even idea. We all succumb to our desires from time to time, but that doesn't mean that we have to find ourselves in tragic ends. There is some hope here that we don't fall to the same fate, because the true source of beauty and love lies within ourselves and in pursuit of a higher spiritual purpose. Our own soul is the heart and spirit of all beauty, and yet so few of us actually realize this. We look for beauty and love in all the wrong places. But it's now time to turn inward, to seek all of these qualities within ourselves, to seek God and the spiritual bliss within ourselves. So I hope you enjoyed this poem and its layers of meaning. Hopefully, it inspires you to find the way to heaven if you are not already seeking it. You know, we are all capable of seeking this higher spiritual plane, but the key is if we are willing to seek it out. And although it's not always easy, nothing worth having ever is. And on that note, I highly encourage you to check out some of the other videos on this channel, which all, in their own ways, serve to help you on this path, whether it's poems like these or spiritual teachings and meditations. If you like this video in particular, please drop a like and consider subscribing. I'd love to have you on board on this journey as we all look to return back to our true home. But for now, keep turning inward and keep listening to the wisdom of your soul. Just imagine who is waiting for you once you finally open that door.